Thank you, Deputy Speaker, for acknowledging the people of Niue and the people of Papua New Guinea as a whole for this question that I'm just about to ask without notice. Deputy Speaker, my question is directed to the Minister of Public Service. My questions are, does the Minister know how many public servants, retirees, are there in the country that are still waiting to be paid out for their long service entitlements? Question 2, has funding been made available for these entitlements within the 2023 national budget? Question 3, how long will it take for these entitlements owing to be paid out? Can the Minister report back within the next Parliament sitting? Of my three questions, reason being, I have knowledge of 2 retired personnel waiting for their dues that have since passed away. Could the Minister ensure that these are passed on, the entitlements that are still paid out to the and please may the relevant ministers please take note of this question. Thank you, Chairman.
The Honourable Minister of Public Service.
Thank you, Acting Speaker of Law. This is an important question, member for Niue. I will take note of the question and come back to him on a specific number. The budget is already been prepared. We have a budget. We have the actual amount of budget and number of retirees. I cannot provide right now, but I'll come back with that information. Actually, I had it in the last statement that I made. I have to go back because I was not given the notice to answer. Otherwise, on my part, from the Department of Personal Management side, the records are in order in terms of the number of retirees and from the respective agencies on the first question and the amount. However, my department doesn't allocate the funding. The funding is allocated by Treasury and Finance. So once the names are all and the paperwork is all done, the cash is released and retirees are paid accordingly. So I'll come back with the details in the next sitting. Thank you, President Speaker.
The Honourable Governor for Chimbu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have received my question since last week, but since the Health Minister is not around, can I ask the good Prime Minister my question?
Honourable Governor, I will ask you to retract your statement by addressing the Chair's Assistant Speaker. And you can continue on your question.
My Assistant Speaker, sorry. Okay, my question is, my hospital board's term of office expired 6 months ago. Without the hospital board, there is management issues of serious proportions. Question number 1, why is it taking 5 months just to get the hospital board appointed and gazetted? Is it a process or incompetency of the system? The people are dying from preventable diseases. Number 2, please give me a time frame when this board will be appointed and gazetted. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I want to appreciate this question from the Governor for Simbu. But before that, let me inform the House the Minister for Health is attending to a family matter. He has an elder brother who's in a serious medical conditions, so he has sought leave from me as Prime Minister for him to attend to this matter, so he's not in Parliament. I also want to inform the House and people of Chimbu and any other hospitals for that matter. Whilst I appreciate the board and the appointment of the board is delayed, and I will get into this matter ASAP, I want to inform that the functionality of the hospital should not be stalled because a board is not appointed. The hospital can still function and operate. The doctors are there, the CEOs are there. The hospital should be serving the people. They shouldn't be dependent on a board that is not yet affirmed or confirmed. But for the people of Chimbu and the Chimbu Provincial Health Board, I'll return advice to the governor later this afternoon on the status of the board appointment, and we will get the process to be expedited. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Alatau.
Mr. Speaker, a question without notice is to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for Labour. Just a short question. Assistant Speaker, government have over the years been flexible in our investment decisions, and some of those decisions are to attract business and investment, especially in the sector of agriculture. Under Clause 7 of the Minimum Wage Determination 1 of 2014, we have exempted the agriculture sector under Clause 7 to allow for the minimum wage of $3.50 to be applied to workers. While we welcome those decisions, my question to the Minister, number one, does the department have an oversight over the compliance and monitoring of the minimum wage of $3.50 to all the sectors? The question number two, can the Minister make a commitment to undertake a review on the minimum wage, Clause 7, that exempts our workers in the agriculture sector to participate under the minimum wage determination? Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Acting Speaker. And I'd like to appreciate the very important question that our good member for Alatau has raised. It is of national concern, and I think it's good that I answer the question so our people can listen to. The exemption on the agricultural sector on the minimum wages is important because some aspects of the agricultural sector are in rule settings. So they have applied, and they applied to a board to have their minimum wages accepted, so they don't meet the criteria to go towards $3.50. But in all sectors of urban areas, the minimum wage is $3.50. Now, plenty mansa talk. Why don't we increase the minimum wage, or why na? You mean no happy wage kwanta up to 10 kina na kaino sem. Lo talk English. Minimum means minimum. Minimum must a limit, the lowest you can go. Or all those people out on social media. That's minimum wage. Time you le happy, you can pay man of 5 kina, no man stop you. You can pay man of 10 kina, no man stop you. You can pay man 100 kina an hour, no man stop you. It is up to the company or the employee that hires them. Minimum wage is called minimum wage. That's the English. Well, plenty blue you me. Plenty blue you me. All company, a lot of companies don't pay the minimum wages. In our shops, inside our organizations like security agencies, a lot of our poor security guards are paid 80 toy an hour, 1 kina an hour. And that comes back to compliance on the part of the Department of Labor, which I currently have under my cap as the Acting Labor and Immigration Minister. For the good ears of Parliament, for the Honourable House, I have issued instructions 6 weeks ago to ensure that the good Department for Labour bring to me a budget and tell me why they are not enforcing the minimum wage. I have asked them why they are not enforcing the minimum wage. And I am going to ensure that once that budget and our work plan forward is done and brought to me, I will find the money so that they will roll out the minimum wage enforcement in Port Moresby. They will roll out the minimum wage enforcement in Lae, Hagen, and all our major centers. Every single person must be paid the minimum wage of 3.50 as set by law. A lot of people have asked, up in minimum wage go 5 kina. But if we're not enforcing the law at 3.50, what's the point of lifting it up to 5 kina? You may enforce him law past them. And then you may up him go on top law. 5 kina, now you may enforce him law again. The problem is enforcement and compliance. And that is what our departments must stand up and do. And that is our job as ministers to ensure that they do that. So in my capacity as the acting Labour Minister, I've already instructed our department to go out and do their compliance. It is their day-to-day job, and they should be doing it. So disla bumpla enforcing minimum wage in all sectors of our country. Because if you pay minimum wage, example, the security industry itself, there's what, 25,000 security guards in this country. If all of them were paid the minimum wage of 3.50 kina, they'll be able to take home a good salary of between 400 to 500 kina. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen today. A lot of people are not paying the minimum wages. Another thing that we will be doing in this session of our parliament, not session, but in our term of parliament, is ensuring that we bring amendments to the floor of parliament that companies who knowingly pay below the minimum wage will be penalized 100,000 kina. Companies who knowingly hire and pay their staff below the minimum wage will also be paying a fine or penalty of 100,000 kina. Right now, the 5,000 kina penalty that is currently in our laws is insufficient. No company, no poret, no wokim, no disla, and are treating our people with indifference that is not right. So with that, I hope that clarifies the question from a good member for Alata, which is a very important question, and I'm glad you asked it so that our citizens can be aware of it and our parliament. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Governor for Oro.
Deputy Speaker, my questions, but before I ask my questions, I just wanted to make a comment in regards to the response by the Deputy Prime Minister, and that if he can also have his department look into the 3-year work training plans that the Labour Department is supposed to enforce on expatriate workers, especially in middle management positions. Many Papua New Guineans cannot ascend to that level because these plans
Governor,
have never been followed. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'll go to my question now.
Thank you.
But still very relevant point, I must add. My questions are to the Minister for SIPA and Climate Change. And I would like the Minister for Forestry to also take note. Firstly, I want to commend the Minister for SIPA and Climate Change. He has been doing a magnificent job in that ministry, trying to clean up the mess that's there and still doing that. Minister, through you, Deputy Speaker, can you please give us an indication of where we are with the Protected Areas Bill, which I believe was lying in readiness to be presented in Parliament for some time, but has not yet progressed, and it has been quite some time now, and I am being asked by relevant NGOs who are concerned about this very important bill, and also members of our various communities who would like this bill to come onto the floor of Parliament so it can be passed and debated. Thank you.
Honourable Minister for Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I'd like to thank the good Governor for Oro for the very important question raised. Regarding the PA bill or Protected Area Bill, it was first drafted in 2017, and was submitted to State Sol for the certificate of necessities. Once the State Sol reviewed, they issued the certificate of necessities in 2017. And in 2018, it was submitted to a First Lady of Council. So the First Lady of Council, proving that the bill was ready to progress to NEC, has issued the certificate of compliance. And it was progressed to NEC. However, Mr. Speaker, the NEC has rejected the submission in 2018 because of the omission of climate change and RED Plus provisions in 2018. So it was taken back to SEPA, and it has taken 2 years for SEPA to revise and redraft the PA bill with the inclusion of climate change and RED Plus provisions. In late 2021, it was then progressed to State Sol again for the certificate of necessity, and it was issued again with a revised drafting instruction. And in early 2022, NEC meeting number 4, 2022, made a decision, NEC decision 39, 2022, under clause 4, which directed the FLC to draft the proposed PA bill in accordance with the approved drafting instruction. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, SEPA did not get the certificate of compliance from FLC prior to the elections. So the PA bill is still with SEPA. And now I have tasked the new acting MD to process and progress the PA bill. And now, Mr. Speaker, through you, I have the PA bill ready to be submitted to NEC and to be brought to Parliament, probably the next Parliament, for reading and enactment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Meneama.
Thank you, Acting Speaker Law, Luxavelo, people Law Menyama. Asking Lomi in Ostablo notice paper, Milag asking Prime Minister. This plus scheme regard law social media, and inside law plenty help you me looking plenty asking work law come up law. Nisbla National Gold Refinery. So Milag asking Prime Minister inapem me explain him when him display me National Gold Refinery. Number 2 question display project and by stopping or put him all Alluvial gold miners outlaw business or no gat. So I can okay display talk clear law display Honorable House. The number 3 question how this project and by affecting industry blomipla. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mila Kisim, time law talk. Thank you, Law Member Law Miniama. Now, Vice Minister Law ask him a good law question in as far as a matter of public interest, with a lot of debates and discussions on the proposed gold refinery that our government wants to do. Mila talk clear. This law proposal, a good law proposal, but we will have to advance it to a stage where affecting all alluvial miners, affecting all existing players, whether individuals who said engaged in transaction belong buying gold, selling gold, all people mining company only stopping this where only got contract. Those who have contract, their contracts will be respected. Those who are already in the industry, whether in buying or producing, people not offset him. This current business only running, but me like talk clear long country or some this some line is spinning long on social media and WhatsApp law proposed law in circulation. I kind of said this was the old proposal, and this proposal has been in the government policy cycles since 2012 or 2013, and so we are looking into it holistically. When the proposal came on our desk in 2019, 2020, thereabout, in respect to focus for our government, adding value to our resources, focus on downstream processing, and come in that context. As Mr. Deputy Speaker, most of you are aware by now, this government's major focus is on adding value to what we produce locally, and to send as finished product outside of our country. That includes gold, that includes oil and gas, that includes our timber resources, and our fisheries resources and our agricultural resources. We've been advocating in terms of downstream for so long, and we want to get into that space, but Miplan have rushed into that space in an agreement that is not beneficial to our country, that doesn't protect our existing industry, but as well as shift in a manner in which goodpla long country blimi. So the proposal that is floating around, members of parliament, Mr. Deputy Speaker, through you, is not the proposal that will get into to go through the full length. We are relooking at it holistically. Government under my watch have tasked certain committee from here. There was a committee established here in the last parliament that have a report already submitted to us, and we're going through the due process as yet. No final version of the current the project or the refinery has been approved by cabinet as yet. It is still work in progress. We want to do something that is solid, that is beneficial to our country, that is beneficial to all the industry, whether at the large-scale level or at the small alluvial levels, and those who are players in the industry all have a part in this new structure going forward. The end result is simple, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We want to have a gold refinery in our country, a gold mint in our countries, rather. But the final stage of this must be something that is beneficial to the country and something that we all want. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, most of you would know, under the leadership of James Marape, I work and I live to work to get better deals for our country. Not in a rushed manner, not in an agreement that is not friendly to all stakeholders, and more importantly, friendly to our people in our country. So me giving Belice long this parliament, through this question where Vice Minister and a member of the Minima asked him that Mipla in a rush through, come up with one gold mint or refinery, something where beneficial to our country and must benefit our country. And we have been producing gold in our country since the 1920s. All kind of gold Mipla go inside and also processing the pet mint. So why not Mipla talk about processing the mint in our country? Idea is simple at this point, to get to that stage. But we will not rush where agreement beneficial long gimi. For instance, this little proponent only proposing proposal round stop. Before law 2013, 2014 proposal, Sinan was I think 70% law proponent, now 30% law country. Underneath law time law Mipla now, consistent with we law Mipla long gimi split him. Majority law Mipla now, minority law, whatever it is, kind of POGRA. You make at 51% law PNG beneficiary, now 49% law investor. This plan thinking Mipla hold him now work him yet. So the bill or the project taking final stage yet, and we're still going through process long negotiate, look, so that affecting one current business. At the same time, come up on the one final project where got Kaikai or Big Kaikai come back long country. So I just want to assure this House we are sensitive. When you talk about gold, it is a big step. We will be ruffling feathers of those who are in the comfort zones. Comfort zone, line in big money at the moment is unaccounted for gold leaving our country. Unaccounted for gold leaving our country. Me no talk that's all, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Me black come up here in government, me like placing on record appreciation of former Minister of Mine, the Honorable Johnson Tuke. One black champion long PNG first policy in our country. A simple reform and make him now, before Ogara Goli go out, also declare him the Form 27 as all. But today, under reform, the Honorable Johnson Tuke make him under my instruction. Now, Lihir, Oktedi, Usadland producing gold, we are now linking the production room by data into MRA by clearly how much gold will produce. So this is reform people are working finish. People are not talking that's all. The next step now, people are working like processing all the gold people inside our country. So this is thinking not have stop. People are processing it, but the final agreement, including one of our investors, people are comes in outside, all investor ba work want them all public ground companies or some MRDC. National government company or some Kumul mining. All existing online business were established this mining sector or country limit. So it is not we'll never rush it to parliament or rush it through the government process silently or in a secret manner. It is a big step in our conversation on downstream processing in our country, and we will take it diligently. The final product should be something, and we'll do it transparently, something that a country will be truly proud of going forward. Needless to remind all of us that gold is a national economy security matter going forward. Gold is a national economy security matter, and processing of gold in our country is an aim of this government. The current proposal that is running around, we will tailor it in a manner in which country has a greater control of gold in our own country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Central Bougainville.
Your Acting Speaker, my question direct to the Minister for Mining, and also I think Prime Minister has just speak on the question asked regarding gold mining and alluvial mining. And also, since Minister for Health is not here too, I put attention to the Prime Minister too. My question is regarding what is happening in Arawa Township in Bougainville. The Arawa Township, I got tupla wara I come on top of mountain, I come down along township. So this tupla wara am affected because she got alluvial mining and stop at that low head blow. Lo this tupla wara na this wara mi go supply all township lo Arawa. So recently papainin lo instead of this wara mi got chemical and stop mercury and stop inside longen. Olo papainim oli painim pinis or sem display me contaminated. Na for human use emino good long Arawa Township, and because Arawa Township residents law Bougainville and Stasot, but all Nara Plateau shall come inside the stop longen. So I'm involved in big health concern na big health concern. I mean, like ask him, Minister for Mining, okay, regarding because of the concern, because of the activity of the alluvial mining, okay, and health concern. And me like ask him, whether Minister is aware of what is happening at the moment in Arawa and in Bougainville, especially in Central. Lord, this activity me contaminated. Water can supply long township long all people. I mean, beyond human use, I mean not good. I mean not safe at the moment because health now education too start along township long end. I mean aware long end. Number 2 question. Enough minister concerned responsible for leadership and we can take action. Something must be done quickly because at this time. So that the health and life of people using water is safe. And third question, like Tokolson, is there any guidelines because for mining of alluvial, good in price in the world and market, and it's like a crazy for all people. Even they start mining alluvial mining in the head of the water, where drinking water and stop long in or inside Locaden. Can that sample guidelines and policy in place to guide the people where they are mining alluvial in any parts of Papua New Guinea long in? Thank you, Acting Speaker.
Honourable Member, Minister, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Thank you, honourable member, for that important question. I am generally aware of what is going on in Arawa town. The the effects of alluvial mining, my office is fully aware of it. As to the environmental issues, my office is also aware of it, but it is a matter that comes under the Environment Minister. However, Honorable Member, my problem, or the problem for my office, is that all the mining responsibilities have been transferred under the Mining Act of Bougainville. They've all been transferred to Bougainville. And we are concerned. We want to do as much as we can, but we understand the limitations, what we can do and what we cannot do. But I have asked my department to see how they can come in and help through our relationship. Maybe we can call them bilateral relationships now, or our arrangement based on the interest of each other. Honorable Member, while most of the powers, or all the powers have been transferred, the only power that has not been transferred is the issue of safety. Safety issues have not been transferred to Bougainville. They are still under MRA. So I was thinking aloud as you were asking the question, that if these issues these environmental issues become a concern of safety, yes, we can come in. So I can give you the assurance that we can come in through
Honorable Minister, you address it to the Speaker. See me and then. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you are quite good looking, so I have to look at you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we can. We can come in through environmental or safety issues. So I think that is the way we are going to address it, but the most important issue is that the systems have been transferred and the power is now with you. But we also understand that the institutional memory and the backup services are not with you yet. And we want to make sure that MRA continues to provide all that institutional support, because it might take you a while to acquire all those experiences, but MRA is continuing to work with you closely so that the institutional support and all the other expert support can be provided to you. So, but having said all that, we will find a way outside of the specifics of the law, but on the understanding of our friendship and our relationships, we'll find a way to come in and assist you and have a look at that. So I'll get back to you. I'll get my department to work with your MRA over there and find a solution. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Pomio.
Sir, Minister of Public Service. Thank you, Mr. Husband Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Hardworking Minister for the Public Service, and if the good Prime Minister can take note, please. Mr. Husband Speaker, I raised during the last Parliament session a debate with regard to the Amendment Public Service Management Act, Section 55 of 2021. This is with regards to the public servants who resigned to contest the 2022 general elections, and the law says that they cannot have a direct entry to public service until after 5 years period. Many of our public servants, especially the experienced ones, are affected. They're still waiting to be re-employed to public service today. Some doctors and some lecturers of universities, institutions. The question is, can the Minister give an update on this matter? Second point is with regard to an article on the front page of Monday's paper. The NSC decision to move 3 of our most experienced departmental heads for works, planning, and finance to overseas mission. Mr. Speaker, we know that 2 of the secretaries are members of the CACC, the Central Agency Coordinating Committee. That's the Secretary for Finance and Planning. At the moment, 2 other secretaries are on an acting capacity. That's the Secretary for Department of Justice Attorney General,
and the department for the provincial affairs after the unfortunate passing of Dr. Gelu this year. This leaves only the Secretary for TPM, who is the substantive holder if this decision is made. The question is, Mr. Speaker, the CICC provides an important role to the government with regard to many matters of our country. The question is, considering the decision and its possible impacts on CICC credibility, can DPM, as the department responsible for managing contracts of departmental heads, advise the government again on this particular decision, if necessary, to revisit that until such a time when the CICC members are fully appointed to their respective positions? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honourable Member for Public Service. Minister, sorry.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. The questions are very valid. Number one, in terms of the issue on the public servants going out for election and coming back, the law tests, the amendment as it stands, that all public servants, whether they are doctors or police personnel or anyone, any public servant that goes out for election will not come back automatically after 5 years. We have not made a repeal or for that matter. So as it is right now, it still stands, because we want to also protect the integrity of the public service. The public service has been totally abused by public servants and also ourselves as politicians. So we need to really put some integrity and discipline into the public service. But that doesn't stop for the case of doctors. I think on our administrative matter, we've discussed that, and I think the Honourable Member for Pomio, who's also a very experienced public servant himself, and former Minister for Public Service, and to understand that we would like to also make sure that we don't contaminate the public service by public servants going out to politics, come back, and keep the committed and loyal public servants still sitting there, and while a departmental head or deputy or whoever goes and comes back and sits there in the government office. So that's the issue. For the case of doctors and all that, there's some discussion with Health Minister and the Secretary that there can be a provision to engage them on the consultancy or advisory basis. They can work alongside another PHAs where there is needed, but they will not be coming in automatically as public servants until after 5 years. So that's the first answer to the first question. The second question, in relation to the 3 current departmental heads that have been appointed to take up overseas missions, the only authority that appoints departmental heads and agency heads is the National Executive Council. No one else makes appointments apart from the NEC. And so the NEC sees fit and right to make changes. Sometimes we question it from the outside, but to start off with, for the benefit of everyone, to even start off with last week Friday, it carried the postgrad, put it on the front page without even the instruments being signed yet in the NEC. So how comes it found itself in the paper when confidential NEC matters are still being processed inside? So those are the issues that we would like to also make an appeal to, not appeal, but get a message clear to the media. The only person that is authorized to give out any decisions is the Prime Minister, who is the chairman. No one else. So if you like, at the moment, the affected departmental heads have not been advised yet in the normal process. They have not been formally informed yet, and yet it's found itself in the paper. So we'd like to really, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we must control this kind of important confidential matters to do with personal matters. These personal matters affect lives of human beings. They don't deal with these things. So anyway, to go to the answer, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the decision that has been made by NEC is for the interest of the state. There is a provision in all the agency heads contracts there is a provision in there that says that in the event there's an interest of the state coming in place, the NEC can make changes either to relocate, redeploy, or even to make changes in the interest of the state. For this case, the NEC feels that it should make some changes, and these senior departmental heads have acquired a length of experience in the public service. And to have them as ambassadors or heads of missions, it also uplifts the profile of the country. So we are also proud that they will bring in a lot of credibility and experience to those heads of missions. These are Brussels, China, and Philippines. These countries are very important for us. So I don't, on the other side of it, Mr. Assistant Speaker, it's also good for them, and also to be able to give way to deputies and those inside the public service to come, because there are 2 or 3 of them have been appointed 2 times. 2 terms now, 2 terms. So sometimes it's good for them to move on, but not to be pushed out. We actually have respect for them, and we want to make sure that they go out and serve the country also in that capacity. But at the same time, to give way for the deputies and those in the public service to go up as well, and to become departmental heads as well. So if you look at all angles, Mr. Assistant Speaker, all this is done for the good of the country. And all of us, anything that we do, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is all because of one thing, and that is because of the interest of the state. Takes precedence of our own personal interest and political interest. So I'd like to say that the NEC has made a decision, and that's the final authority to make appointments. I bring in the submission, and the authorities with the NEC to decide. So that's, I hope that I've answered the questions of the member for Pomio and clear some of the air. But as it is, we stand by the decision that is made, and that's all for the good interest of not just the state as well, but also for the individual departmental heads that have been appointed and redeployed. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Okay, supplementary. Deputy Opposition Leader, what's supplementary?
Thank you. Me Harim Gupla Ensablo, Minister. So, Minister, there is a question that was built into the question that was raised by the member for Pomio and the Shadow Minister for Public Service with regards to CACC, the importance of CACC. Number 1. Number 2, Works Secretary was appointed just last year on a permanent basis. Do you pay him out in order for him to take a new role? Thank you.
Honourable Minister for Public Service.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Sorry, I missed that those 2 parts. The last question first. The second question first. The current Secretary for Works is still in his 3rd term contract. It's going to his third term. And so, like I said, in the interest of the state, I want to repeat again, anywhere in between the contract term, NEC can make a decision to redeploy, but so long as it's within the terms and conditions, and the pay and all the terms and conditions, all those are not affected. They are redeployed at the same level or even higher. So he's well taken care of. In between his contract, if he goes and when he takes up the position, it doesn't affect him. He still maintains his contract as it is. That's number 1, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And the second question is to do with the question is to do with the CACC. The CACC is still in place. It's still in place. Whether you have a current substantive holder going out on leave or going out to take up another position, there will always be an acting departmental head. So when that term comes, the acting appointee is automatically the member of the CACC. So the CACC will not be affected in any way at all. The CACC still continues and it functions. I would like to also, Assistant Speaker, make it clear that all these big government programs are run by the government. We should not bring in the departmental heads to try to play whatever game we want to play with it. The departmental heads are there to implement government policies. The government is in control of those policies. And the government sees fit to make changes, it can make changes. But the government will run, the government policies will continue to run and stay, and they will not be affected. There's a number of public servants experience out there to also step in and assist. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honourable Member for Wawaria.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, for allowing me to ask my question on behalf of the people of Wawaria and Morobe Province. My question is directed to the Right Honourable Prime Minister of the Independent State of Papua New Guinea and member for the good people of Taripori, and Assistant Speaker, the Minister responsible for Electoral Commission. Mr. Assistant Speaker, after the 2022 National General Elections, there are about over 100 cases, election petition filed against the 97 elected seats of Parliament. Most of these allegations or election petitions are related to common role, illegal voting, double voting, ghost names voting, names missing, etc., etc. Now, Mr. Assistant Speaker, this issue is not new. It has been happening every after general election, national general election.
Honourable Member, there's a point of order. What's the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, the point of order is that the nature of the question raised by the Honourable Leader is one pertaining to a matter that is before a special parliamentary committee at the moment. And I believe that is a subject of that inquiry and probably not, does not have the privilege to be used, raised in this forum, in the House today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Irikoyari. Your question is noted, but he has the right to ask the question. It's not on the question paper, so continue with your question. Honourable Member for Wawaria.
The inquiry has been going on, but let the people know what's happening. Yes. After being elected as the unopposed, as the Prime Minister of this country, our good Prime Minister mentioned several key challenges that faces the country. And one of the key challenges is the electoral reforms. He stated that, that the principle of one person, one vote must be achieved. Now, Mr. Assistant Speaker, this is a very high benchmark set by our good Prime Minister. It is a good one. It requires the Electoral Commission and NID to work together and synchronize their legislation, policies, and processes, including the technologies, to work together. Now my questions. Mr. Assistant Speaker, and it's directed to the Prime Minister. Is the Electoral Commission with NID working together to ensure by 2027, before we go to the polls, we will be voting using our NID? My second question, can the Prime Minister make a commitment to this House and to the people of this country that the Electoral Commission will test the system and pilot one of the by-election to ensure the citizens of that electorate exercise the principle of one person, one vote?
Honourable Member, that's the point of order. What's the point of order, Governor for Pacific?
In support of what the member for Kairuku, Hiri Koyari, has said, Standing Order 141 forbids the asking of the question on matters that are before committee. I refer the clerk and his advisory committee to Standing Order 141. Thank you.
Honorable Governor for Isibik, I think the matter has not been referred to the Parliament. Parliament, I'm sorry, the matter has not, the committee has not referred the matter to the, to
It could preempt judgment. Is quite clear. A question may not be moved on any proceeding that is before a committee and not yet reported to the floor. It cannot be asked on the floor. That's what subsection D is very clear. It's preemptive. The minister or the prime minister cannot express an opinion on a matter that's before committee. It's clear in the standing orders. Just because we haven't used it in the last 5 years is irrelevant, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Governor for Isibik. Yes, Minister for Mining.
Yeah, Mr. Assistant Speaker, if I may be of some assistance, the committee is a body of this Parliament. This matter has been referred to that committee. So the business of Parliament discussing that matter should be suspended until such time the matter is brought back. And that provision is basically saying we should not be discussing the matter in a way that preempts a decision or discussion of Parliament. So that is the that's the I view. I don't want to.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Warrior. You can hold back your question until the committee brings this matter to this Parliament, and we can debate the matter when it's presented to the chamber. Member for Yalupangi, what's your point of order?
Members' question and the interventions by other members quite relevant, and in my view, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the member is asking about a event that is about to take place in the form of a by-election, while the committee's proceedings are taking place. He is asking the process that the Electoral Commission will take while given the facts surrounding the 2022 elections. So I think the minister should answer, or the Prime Minister should answer the questions in relation to the by-elections that are going to take place over the next few months. I'm aware that the committee's report will not be ready for this Parliament over the next few months. So I think the members should be given an opportunity to have an answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Yalupangi. I think I have already made the ruling that his question will be reserved until the committee presents the report back to the Parliament, and then we can debate that in our next sitting. Honourable members, our time for question without notice has expired. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Is the leave granted?
Mr. Speaker, I move that so much of the standing orders be suspended as would prevent notice of the day number 31 and order of the day number 30, government business being called on forthwith.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say yes. Those in favor say no. The ayes have it. Clerk.
Notice number 31, treaty document agreement between the independent state of Papua New Guinea and the government of the Republic of Palau relating to air service. Resumption of debate.
The question is, the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Minister for Transport and Civil Aviation.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I ask leave of the Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Still leave granted?
Aye. Mr. Speaker, I move that in accordance with Section 117(5) and A of the Constitution, this Parliament waives Section 117(3) of the Constitution, which requires a treaty document to be presented to the Parliament for at least 10 sitting days before Papua New Guinea can be bound to a party insofar as that provision applies to rectification of the agreement between the independent state of Papua New Guinea and the government of the Republic of Palau relating to air services.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion must be supported by an absolute majority of 59 members. Those in favor of the motion, please stand. Honourable members, the result stands. Those yes, 86. No, 0. The motion is carried. Honourable members, ministerial statements. Minister for Works and Highway.
Thank you.
Correction, sorry, clerk.
Notice number 30, Minister for International Trade and Investment.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I present the Special Economic Zone Authority Amendment Bill of 2023.
Clerk.
A bill for an act to amend the Special Economic Zones Authority Act 2019.
Minister for Trade, Minister for International Trade and Investment.
Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to move the second reading forthwith.
Is the leave granted? Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that the bill is now read a second time.
Make a speech.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present to this Honourable House and the people of Papua New Guinea the Special Economic Zone Authority Amendment Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, Section 3 of the Special Economic Zones Authority Act of 2019 states that a Minister for Finance is the minister responsible for special economic zones and the Special Economic Zones Authority. On the other hand, Schedule 7 of the Ministerial Determination number G690 of 31st August 2022 states that a Minister for International Trade and Investment is the minister responsible for the Special Economic Zones Authority and special economic zones in the country. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Section 148, subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Prime Minister has the prerogative to appoint any Minister of Parliament to be Minister responsible for any state, agency, or department by way of a ministerial determination. Mr. Speaker, if an enabling legislation defines a certain minister to be the minister for a certain state, department, or agency, whereas the Prime Minister through a ministerial determinations appoints another named minister, there will be certainly confusion as to the governance of the state institution. This is evident in this case and therefore needs to be corrected so that the laws are consistent with each other and state institutions are allowed to function effectively. Mr. Speaker, Section 3 of the Special Economic Zones Authority Act of 2019 says that the Finance Minister is responsible for AZZ, and the ministerial determination G690 of 31st August says that the Minister for International Trade and Investment is the Minister responsible for Special Economic Zones. This is legal uncertainty as to who is the Minister responsible for Special Economic Zones Authority and the Special Economic Zones. Mr. Speaker, to correct this legal flaw, the Constitution supersedes all other laws, including all acts of Parliament. This is consistent with Section 11 of the Constitution, which dictates that the Constitution and the organic laws are the supreme laws of Papua New Guinea, and all acts, whether legislative, executive, or judicial, that are inconsistent with them are, to the extent of the inconsistency, invalid and ineffective. Subsequently, this means that the ministerial determination number G690 of the 31st of August 2022 takes precedence over Section 3 of the Special Economic Zone Authority Act of 2019. Mr. Speaker, to correct this legal uncertainty, I present the Special Economic Zone Authority Bill of 2020 to this Honorable House, which corrects and repeals Section 3 of the Special Economic Zone Authority Act of 2019. Mr. Speaker, this amendment bill defines minister as the minister designated by the Prime Minister in accordance with Section 148, subsection 1 of the Constitution, to be the minister responsible for the administration of this act. This amendment basically means the minister appointed through a ministerial determination from time to time by the Prime Minister is the minister responsible for the administration of the Special Economic Zone Authority and the Special Economic Zones. Mr. Speaker, this important amendment bill is necessary to affirm legal correctness and support the prerogative of the Prime Minister from time to time when he or she decides any member of Parliament is minister responsible for the Special Economic Zone Authority and the Special Economic Zones. Significantly, it will enhance and complete the leadership and management structure of the Special Economic Zone Authority for the prudent management and governance of the Special Economic Zones throughout this country. Mr. Speaker, I now seek the support of the Parliament to pass this critical amendment. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question, is there a question be put? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Clerk. The question is that the bill now be read the second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Clerk.
A bill for an act to amend the Special Economic Zones. Second reading, a bill for an act to amend the Special Economic Zones Authority Act 2019.
Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to move the third reading forthwith.
Question is the question before. Is leave granted? Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill now be read a third time.
The question is the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The question is that the bill now be read the third time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Clerk.
Third reading, a bill for an act to amend the Special Economic Zones Authority Act 2019.
The question is the question be put. Minister. Ministerial statement, Minister for Works.
I move a motion to do a ministerial statement. Mr. Speaker, Connect PNC program financing and implementation. Connecting the unconnected, reaching the unreached, and saving the unsafe. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of our rural population, who are for the first time seeing and experiencing roads connecting them under the Connect PNT program, including my remote people of Telefomin. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me to provide an update on the progress and the financing and implementation of the Marabe-Rosso government's flagship road infrastructure development program. Mr. Assistant Speaker, before I do so, let me firstly acknowledge the Prime Minister, Honorable James Marabe, and the members of Parliament for the ongoing support for this vital nation-wide program to fully connect PNG with roads. Mr. Speaker, Assistant Speaker, there is a strong relationship between the country's economic development and road connectivity and the quality of roads, as roads play a very vital role in the economic and social development. As at 2014, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we had more than 70% of the country's roads in poor or fail condition due to continuous underfunding situation that resulted in 40 billion maintenance bill to the asset owner, the state. Mr. Speaker, this situation added to the ever-increasing transportation and logistics cost and the overall cost of doing business and delivery of public goods and services. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the deteriorated state of the existing roads and the development of road connectivity and accessibility is already a huge bottleneck in the progress of our government's goal. Diversifying and growing the economy to achieve a 200 billion GDP in 10 years' time. Mr. Assistant Speaker, considering the short-term and long-term impacts of the declining conditions of the existing roads and limited road connectivity on the economy
the Marabe Rosso government developed the Connect PNG Economic Road Infrastructure Development Program 2020 to 2040, 20 years program. Connect PNG aims to both improve the existing roads in poor conditions and also develop new missing links. Mr. Speaker, Assistant Speaker, all totaling to 16,000 kilometers. This will open up the country and meet growing demand for road connectivity and increasing sustainable road accessibility for development. Mr. Assistant Speaker, our government is taking a long-term view in developing economic lifeline highways and major link roads that respond to future growth and demands of local and national economy. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Connect PNG is a 20 billion worth of long-term program to build economic lifeline. Highways that respond to future growth and demands of local and national economic development aspirations. Mr. Assistant Speaker, our government is not only announcing a major investment program, as is the case in the past, but importantly has approved important backup legislative and institutional reforms to address historic problems of underfunding issues and weak delivery systems affecting implementations of development policies in the past. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as a result of the legislative reforms, the implementation of our government's Connect PNG program is now underpinned by the Connect PNG Implementation and Funding Arrangements Act 2021, which gives stable long-term funding commitment of 5.6% of the annual budget is allocated to Connect PNG over the 20 years life of this program. Mr. Assistant Speaker, using the forward projections for the budget expenditure, this commitment would amount to over 1.3 billion on average per year and will give a total sum of 7.89 billion investment for the 2022 to 2027 medium-term program period. Mr. Assistant Speaker, within the legislated 5.6% annual budget funding commitment, the national government is committed to implement 4 main priority programs, and below are the status of the programs. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in line with our government commitment to boost the capacity, efficiency, and productivity of the main economic highways, an allocation of 3.5 billion investment at 700,000 million per annum from 2020 to 2027 to upgrade and improve 4,200 kilometers of national highways, comprising Hiritano Highway, Magi Highway, Highlands Highway, Ramon Medeng Highway, Waubulolo Highway, Civic Coastal Highway, Kokoda Highway, Ruminski Highway, Enga Highway, and Manus Highway, and not forgetting Civic Inland Highway. To international standard and 2-lane highways. Mr. Assistant Speaker, up to 2022, a total of 2,700 kilometers, that is more than 50% of the highway sections, had been upgraded and improved. These include improvement of 85% of the 430 430 kilometers of the Highlands Highway, sections from Najab to Kakamuka, under the ADB co-funded Highlands Highway Investment Program. 95% of the 135 kilometers of Hilitano Highway, 70% of 115 kilometers of Bougainville roads, 100% improvement to Pruminsky Highway, and as well as major improvements on other main highways around the country. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the improved conditions of the national highways are already contributing to travel time savings and massive reductions in vehicle operating costs for the trucking companies and PMV operators. We will continue and complete upgrading and improving the balance of 1,500 kilometers in 2023 to 2027 period. Mr. Assistant Speaker, this government will invest 200 million annually, commencing 2023 budget, and will reach 1 billion in 2027 to construct additional 1,800 kilometers to connect 1 million people yet to be connected by road and provide access to unlock economic potential. The priority is to complete and open up the missing links sections between Aseki and Ebo on the Trans-Island Highway by 2025 to meet the government short-term goal to open up this highway with 50th independence anniversary of our country. For this, we have completed 60% of the 141 kilometers, and we expect to complete 100% by 2025 to coincide with 50 years independence anniversary. And this government is confident to do that. All in all, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we have recorded some major achievements on the constructions of the new missing link roads, including Maramuni Missing Link Road 100% open. Now you can drive from Wabek to Maramuni. We have Erave Sembriki 100% connecting the southern to the northern region. Baya to Mereng 40%, and it will come on tender soon to fully construction and open that missing link. Aitape to Vanemo, 100% open to traffic. We're working on that. Fiska, lay 80% open. We'll fully open the missing link by 2025. Central to Milin Bay, 50% open. Tabubil to Telefomin, 80% open. By December 25th, the Prime Minister will be in Telefomin to officially deliver the road to Telefomin people. Missing link will be open fully. The other missing link is the Karamui, Agumani to Karamui Gulf, 40%, and we are working on. It's been declared as special economic zone. We are aligning everything. So we will work with a new member. Also, the other missing link is the Pomio. Pomio to Kenyan Processor and all the way to Kimbe. That is not on the list, but I am now announcing. And there are some more missing links. We will continue to complete the remaining kilometers on the current projects and comments on other priority roads, as I have stated. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Connect PNG is implemented on the commitment of this government to see all roads improve must lead to socio-economic growth. Accordingly, our rural communities will continue to benefit from 1.5 billion investment to upgrade and improve 9,000 kilometers of subnational roads in partnership with local authorities. This component will also include major arterial roads for the regional cities of Mount Hagen, Port Moresby, Kokopo, and Lae, and other major towns to urban road standard in partnership with the municipal authorities to provide opportunities to grow the local economies and encourage investments with improved access to markets, service hubs, and industrial centers. Mr. Assistant Speaker, up to 2022, more than 1,066 kilometers of roads had been improved to good condition. That is over 35% achievement. Mr. Speaker, we are on track to bring to good condition 3,000 kilometers of this sub-program by 2027. Mr. Assistant Speaker, 450 million worth of contracts are in progress on the main city roads, including 380 million for Lae Najab 4-lane section 2A and 2B, 50 million for Mount Hagen City for lane road safety improvements works, 70 million for Lae City concrete standard roads. So 70 million is going down to city roads in Lae. No more potholes city. Is thing of the past. This government is committed to deliver Lae City with concrete. 20 million for Hagen City roads, 10 million for Kokopo Airport Road. Also, we have a 4-lane tender out, and it's going to be given to a contractor to deliver a 4-lane road from Tokua to Kokopo City. Kokopo is a fourth city in the country. Mr. Assistant Speaker, under sub-program 4, to upgrade and replace 1,000 meters of overdue bridge structures on the main highways, this government is committing a total cost of 1 billion at 200 million per annum between 2023 and 2027 to improve all the bridges from 1-lane to 2-lane. To date, we have completed 165 bridges. Bridges length in meters to be confirmed. Out of 2,000 meters target on national highways, we achieved 591 meters with 71 major bridges on the Highlands Highway at design stage. We have supplied and constructed 2,000 meters of bridges for rural roads, which already increasing the rural access for the rural population by 20% from what used to be in impossible conditions. Mr. Assistant Speaker, my department strives to ensure investment decisions are continued to be made on the basis of proper cost-benefit analysis with appropriate designs to ensure fit for purpose engineering standards. Environmental standards, safety standards, and world best practice are adequately accommodated and reflected in the final results and the outcomes. Mr. Assistant Speaker, some of these reforms in the design standards and road building technologies are best practice we adopted are already giving improved results, and they include: number 1, pavement recycling and stabilizing technology. 300 kilometers of roads on the main highways had been rehabilitated and stabilized, including sections of Enga Highway, Highlands Highway, Ramu Medeng Highway, and Lae Najab 4-lane sections of the Highlands Highway. This technology stabilizes and gives longer service life and save on maintenance cost. Number 2, concrete pavement technology. 70 kilometers of Lae City roads have been done using the rigid pavement standard, changing the pothole city name into cement city in the last 5 years of continuous effort and work. The concrete pavement gives longer service life at low maintenance cost as they are climate resilient. Number 3, shift from project loans to program loans. Program loans. Shifting from project-based loans to program loans to ensure work continuity on major highway sections. For example, the 430-kilometer sections of the Highlands Highway is now being improved under 10-year ADB program financing. Number 4, design and build construction contract model. Design and feasibility studies are compulsory requirements of the project delivery process to ensure large investment on large highway sections are done with confirmation of technical feasibility and economic viability that delivers high returns on investment. Mr. Assistant Speaker, number 5, independent project management. All big projects are now managed by independent project managers who act impartially with high work ethics and practices to ensure projects are delivered to the standard specified in the contracts and or high quality. Number 6, Assistant Speaker, long-term maintenance policy. In order to prolong the life of the roads built at high capital cost, we are introducing long-term maintenance programs on the newly improved highway sections. Mr. Assistant Speaker, at the end of the day, we want to grow our GDP through increased economic activities as roads connect investors and developers to natural resources. Mr. Assistant Speaker, major investments in key roads are already generating the expected returns and benefits. For example, along the corridor of the newly built Lane Najab 4-lane section is booming with developments along the four-lane highway corridor. That is one of the examples you can see. Some of the critical impacts and benefits that have been generated out of these improvements in roads and bridges include: 1, 10,000 rural and technical jobs for PNG on construction sites all around PNG, boosting rural income for PNG families, creating 10,000 jobs. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, Assistant Speaker, creating 20 new small to medium local contractors in direct and subcontract arrangement at a total contract value of 1.2 billion. Mr. Assistant Speaker, number 3, 600 million worth of royalty and land compensation payments on project sites, boosting local economies and increasing household income for rural families. Mr. Assistant Speaker, number 4, 3 hours of travel time saving on the main national highways in proposing to the 50% road condition improvement. Number 5, Mr. Assistant Speaker, 300 million savings in vehicle operating costs from wear and tear on the main highways from improved road conditions. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in responding to one of the long-standing public concerns and interest on the abuse of road maintenance funding, critical achievements have been recorded. Since 2013, Department of Works and Highways has referred all claims to court instead of the usual out-of-the-court settlement practices. With the support of the state solicitor, the courts have dismissed false claims and subsequently saved almost 700 million in total amount. We will continue to defend any false claims, and I will inform everyone out there, contractors, claimants, and government officials, there is no room for false claim anymore under the Connect PNG laws that protects abusers and insulates against abuses and misuse of road-related funds. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the program activities cover the entire country and the benefit as well, both direct and indirect. Both immediate and long-term benefits are expected to spread widely. This is the true meaning of leaving no one behind. In every development efforts of this government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we have various funding streams, including government of PNG, concessional loans, grants, tax credit scheme funds, and commercial loans. These various funding streams have their own governance and accountability arrangements. Mr. Assistant Speaker, on the same note, I am happy to say that the 5.6% allocation, 1.6 billion in 2023, will be managed through a dedicated trust with high-level oversight by the NEC-approved All of Government Connect PNG Program Steering Committee chaired by the Secretary for National Planning and Monitoring. Mr. Speaker, the Connect PNG program is not just mere talk. Since its inception in 2020, more than 230 projects have been procured and implemented under the various programs which I highlighted already. Out of the planned 5 billion budget, we have procured 3.6 billion worth of projects, including a 6 million in arrears payments for legacy contracts inherited from the previous and past governments. Mr. Assistant Speaker, on the back of our achievements so far, we will be implementing a massive 5.6 billion worth of road maintenance and capital works contracts representing the biggest road works ever to be undertaken in the history of our country in the next 5 years, from 2023 to 2027. Mr. Assistant Speaker, it is very important to highlight that the Connect PNG program is aimed to cover all 4 regions, all provinces, all districts, and all communities, as its benefits will be spread widely, both now and into the future, right down to the rural districts. Our future. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, let me acknowledge our government partners who are contributing more than 50% of the capital investment in the Connect PNG program with loans and grants funding. They include the Asian Development Bank, or ADB, World Bank, Australian Aid, Japanese Aid through JICA, Chinese Exim Bank, Australian Infrastructure Financing Facility Loan, Oil and Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and Indian Exim Bank. I also acknowledge the private companies that fund projects through the tax credit scheme that include Octedi, ExxonMobil, and New Britain Oil Palm, and other tax credits that not mentioned. Mr. Assistant Speaker, subnational road authorities are supported by increased funding through the Department of National Planning and Monitoring and technical support from the Department of Works and the Highways. The centralizing of technical functions and powers requires proper capacity and resources to subnational authorities is taking place progressively to effectively implement road management and maintenance responsibilities. Mr. Acting Assistant Speaker, these transfers across all provinces and districts is important to deliver local road projects effectively and boost local employment and economic activities. Mr. Assistant Speaker, just in 3 years, Connect PNG is progressing very well. with massive achievements on the main highways, rural roads, bridges, and opening up key missing links to touch the untouched with socio-economic impacts that will add value to major investment costs we are doing. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we are very confident that with the current level of political and funding commitment with strong project management and monitoring efforts, our next PNG will deliver the results in timely manner to transform PNG from a low-income country to an upper-middle-income country. Mr. Assistant Speaker, it cannot be a business as usual. Minimum funding commitments made under the law must be made available always to make sure we do not turn back but continue to move forward to achieve 100% road connectivity by 2040. And PNG shall never be the same again. I leave two quotes to ask the members of floor or members of parliament. Number one, it is not our wealth that built our roads, but it is our roads that build our wealth. Number two, if not us, then who? If it's not now, then when? Yes, together we can do it now for our beautiful country. God bless Papua New Guinea. Assistant Speaker. Thank you.
Bureau of Government Business.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, I move that further debate on the paper, on the statement by the Minister of Works and Infrastructure be adjourned to a subsequent sitting.
The motion is that we need to agree to. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Ayes have it. Minister for Treasury. Minister for Treasury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The PNG economy is facing many challenges. In this statement this afternoon, this morning, I want to provide a high-level context for the many more detailed actions that are underway in our individual ministries. The focus will be on moving forward, constructively learning from the mistakes of our past. On growth where it matters, Mr. Speaker, the Pangu-led coalition government is committed to lifting our people's livelihood. We know that the vast majority of our people, especially in rural areas, are struggling. As Treasurer, my focus is on lifting sustainable, equitable growth as high as possible, with low inflation and, of course, a sustainable budget. The Marape Rosso government has committed to lifting growth to at least 5% per annum in the most important parts of our economy, the non-resource sector, where over 90% of our people earn their incomes in agriculture, fishing, in shops, transport, construction, finances and government services. This is known as the non-resources parts of our economy. The non-resource economy is all of the economy except the resource sector, such as mining and gas. Unfortunately, from 2012 to 2018, non-resource growth was very poor under the PNC. Mishandling of the drought meant that non-resource growth went backwards by over 4% in 2015, the worst outcome in our nation's history. What happened? Well, PNC didn't care about struggling families. PNC did not introduce a 1,177 million household assistance package. Beware the crocodile tears from someone opposite. They have shown they don't care for struggling families. Mr. Speaker, this government's objective is returning to strong growth. We have a forward-looking growth agenda and growth where it matters for our families. What has been the recent experience for real non-resource growth? Well, there's some good news. Despite the global economic downgrade by the IMF and World Bank, the IMF has noticed that PNG's domestic recovery is growing stronger than initially expected. This is also reflected in external sources, such as the very positive results from the latest Business Advantage 100 CEO survey, which Prime Minister had mentioned last week. The IMF have actually now lifted PNG's real non-resource growth rate estimate from 4.6% at budget time up to 4.9% in its latest staff report for this year. PNG is now nearly at triple the average growth rate for the rest of the world at 1.7%. And looking forward, where specifically do we see growth coming from? Between 2022 and 2027, PNG's nominal GDP is expected to increase from 107 billion kina to 145 billion kina. We've heard these numbers many times before. On its way to a 200 billion economy by about 2030. The good news is that we are expecting strong growth across almost all parts of our non-resource economy. Real growth rates over these 5 years include 42% in the information and communication sector, 32% in water supply, 32% in transport and storage, 30% in retail and wholesale trade, 28% in manufacturing, and 25% growth in construction. The basic message is that there are excellent business opportunities across the economy. Now is a good time to invest in Papua New Guinea. On living standards, Mr. Speaker, with at least 5% real growth per annum in the non-resource sector and population growth of 3.1%, this means living standards per person will be increasing by a steady and realistic level of 1.9% per annum. Well, a 1.9% improvement in living standards in a single year has little impact, yes. However, after 10 years on average, people's living standards will be 21% better off. After 25 years, our children will be 60% better off. In 37 years, in 2060, our people's living standards will be double current levels. Development takes time. As we move forward, I certainly want to avoid the PNC record. When real non-resource GDP per capita went backwards on average by 0.5% each year from 2012 to 2018. Living standards then in PNG were falling. Let us return to at least the growth rates of the Grand Chief years of the 2000, and once there, let us increase these growth rates even higher. On jobs, Mr. Speaker, there has been a lot of discussions about jobs lately, and rightly so. So what creates jobs in our economy? The answer, the same good policy settings that create our growth. Most commentators only look at the formal employment figures for the private sector, primarily in urban areas, as measured by our central bank. During the Grand Chief years of 2000, we were creating 15,000 jobs a year in the formal private sector. However, from 2013 to 2018, job numbers went backwards by nearly 30,000 jobs. Once again, let us learn from our mistakes, including remembering someone sitting opposite talking about the importance of jobs, but then fails to mention the loss of 30,000 jobs under his policies. As one of my colleagues said last week, please come to the debate if your hands are clean. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased we exceeded our 10,000 jobs per year target in the 12 months to June 2022. Formal private sector jobs growth increased by 9,586 in the year to June 2022, the latest available figures. Most of that growth occurred in the construction sector, reflecting the government's massive infrastructure spending. In addition, there are estimated 1,633 new jobs in the mining sector, even with the Porgera closure, and 1,640 new jobs in the manufacturing sector. Mr. Speaker, let me talk a bit more about jobs in the manufacturing sector, as there has been keen interest in this area, with talk about the Big Biscuit Lay Company and tariffs affecting two other manufacturers. On the specific issues around those firms, I am pleased that the Manufacturing Council has been meeting with my office and Customs to understand the underlying issues and find solutions. For the manufacturing sector as a whole, there is some interesting news, some very interesting news that no one seems to be talking about, including their spokesperson, the number of manufacturing jobs has reached record levels. I repeat, manufacturing employment has grown strongly under the Marape government. It has now climbed to the highest levels in our history. A couple more facts. From 2013 to 2018, under the PNC watch, there was a loss of 5,726 manufacturing sector jobs. Under the Marape government, there has been an increase of 7,157 jobs, recovering lost ground and then moving forward again. Mr. Speaker, returning to jobs growth across the whole economy, the increase of over 9,500 jobs in the formal private sector needs to have added the strong employment gains for our teachers, our doctors, our health workers, and our police. The best available estimate is that there has been an increase in these service delivery jobs by around 4,000 jobs just last year. Including these public service increases, we estimate over 13,500 jobs created in the year to June, already exceeding our 10,000 formal sector jobs a year target. With the 100 CEO survey that 64% of firms or companies in our country expect to increase the numbers of their staff in 2023, up from 46% last year, then the prospects for formal sector jobs is strong. On international engagement and the IMF. Mr. Speaker, the IMF and Australian loan funding is all built already into our financing framework. It is not additional financing on top of what we have planned, as suggested by some last week. It is included in the plan that sees our debt to GDP ratio falling from 52.3% of GDP this year down to 46.8% of GDP by 2027. Our annual financing levels are set out in our budget repair plan. We then work to get the best deals for this fixed level of financing. The IMF is a good deal at 2.4%. The IMF is not a bailout. It is a good deal. And I am pleased to announce this afternoon that overnight in Washington, the IMF Executive Board has approved US $918 million or 3.25 million kina package over a 3-year period, subject, of course, to successful completion of our reform package initiated by our government and not initiated outside of our country. Someone opposite makes the extraordinary claim that only 2 or 3 other countries are in the IMF program. Just another lie. Since the pandemic began in 2020, the IMF have supported 93 countries. There have been 18 new programs over the last year, and the IMF now have an additional 28 requests of support from the fund. The IMF is more popular than it used to be. The opposition talks of public service cuts. Rubbish. The only plan is getting rid of ghost workers from our payroll. A clear government objective that we have spoken so often in the last 3.5 years. They talk of new taxes being forced upon us. But the reality is that we are just planning to pass the simplification rewrite of the Income Tax Act that we have been discussing with businesses for over 3 years now. They talk of budget cuts when all we are agreeing to are the figures that are already in our 13-year plan. And on the roadmap for monetary and fiscal reform, no specifics have been agreed. Nothing has been agreed on a devaluation, and we will ensure PNG's national interests are protected, balancing the gains for Kina, convertibility, and competition with the costs. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting that the opposition are using scare tactics about the devaluation. The opposition has already announced that they are in favour of a devaluation of 20% announced just last month in February. Remember that the person opposite raising these concerns saw a 39% devaluation of the Kina under his watch. Beware hypocrisy. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we must learn from our mistakes and move forward. On growth, we must focus on what matters and which will most help our struggling families and our children's future prospects. And I am pleased that all credible sources indicate we are starting to make good progress. We must move away from policies that destroyed 30,000 jobs from 2013 to 2018 and build on the policies that have seen over 13,500 jobs created in the last year, with prospects for even higher jobs growth. We will work with our international partners, all within our budget repair plan, sustainable levels of cheap debt, and economic reforms that support our policies, not ones imposed from outside. Our starting point economically was not good. Too many of our people are in poverty. There are not enough jobs. There is not enough income. By learning from the mistakes of the past and moving forward with positive policies, the Marape Rosso government is taking back PNG with the aim of leaving no person, no family, and no district behind. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Yalu Pangia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Treasurer for his statement to Parliament. The statement is a very good one. Soon we will be all living in paradise. Everything will be okay. So let me say this by...
Honourable Member, sorry. Can you move to take the note first before you proceed with your debate?
I move that Parliament take note and debate resume, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You may continue.
As I was saying earlier,
Mr. Speaker, this is a second statement in less than 2 weeks on an economy by a treasurer in this parliament. I have been around here for over 20 years, and I've never seen this before. Obviously, there are some challenges in our economy, and I think the treasurer has noted that. But to take things lightly, and for me, I don't mind being insulted and intimidated and arrested and all those things, because I'm a public figure. But you can never silence me, Mr. Speaker, as long as I enjoy the mandate of my people. And I will speak for them. And Mr. Speaker, speaking about the economic data before us, since the good member for TVWAN and Treasurer was in opposition, he has been rewriting the numbers to suit his argument for a while. He ignores the numbers that are presented by the official government agencies. Bank of Papua New Guinea, National Statistical Office, all the other agencies, even independent studies. So I don't mind him continuously presenting numbers that suits his argument. That is his business, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did not interrupt him when he was insulting me. Why can't he just shut up and sit down? And let someone speak.
There's a point of order. What's your point of order, Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My point of order is to the allegation by the honourable member that I have not been using data from credible sources, but it's been clear, Mr. Speaker, from delivering nearly 14 statements over 3.5 years that I've always referred to the central bank data, Department of Treasury, the National Statistics Office, and even our multilateral partners. I'm surprised that the honourable member suggests that those sources are not credible and that they're not accepted by himself or myself. So I would ask if he could retract that statement for fear that he might be insulting himself. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I think we must be reading two different reports. I'm reading the same reports, and numbers you are presenting are not correct. And I've got a summary of all the numbers here with me. I can give it to you. And you can read it at your leisure when you're having lunch. But, Mr. Speaker, let us say that, you have your position and I have mine. But, Mr. Speaker, we know that the economy is growing, or the GDP is growing. And that's largely due to the boom in the resource commodity prices that we are enjoying today. It's got nothing to do with the treasurer's performance. Absolutely nothing. These commodity prices are a reflection of what is happening outside the global economy. Gold, copper, LNG prices at record levels today. But, Mr. Speaker, the growth of GDP does not mean that there is prosperity for everyone in this country. And there is a fact, Mr. Speaker. Instead of focusing on the issues that are before us, the treasurer comes here and makes a grandiose political statements. But, Mr. Speaker, let me say this. Forget about insults and everything else, but focus on a few things. And I'll be very constructive. Focus on the issue about cost of living in this country, Mr. Speaker. And let me tell you what cost of living means if the treasurer does not know. There is the price of goods and services that is affecting every family in this country. And its affordability, Mr. Speaker. If you have not been to the shops lately, please try go shopping once in a while. You will see the real struggles families are going through. The second issue about living standards in this country that you just eloquently presented is about access to infrastructure.
And I'm pleased to know that the government is continuing some of the work that we have started on building roads, building ports, building airports. These are things that will improve the living standards of our people. Try and focus on those. And the third issue, Mr. Speaker, is access to reliable, quality health and education. These are challenges that people are facing today. Access to quality health and education. That improves living standards of individuals and families right across the country. And the fourth issue, Mr. Speaker, is about peaceful society. Address law and order. Address law and order which is not getting out of hand in this country. Those are things that will improve living standards of people. When they are living in peace, they're enjoying good health and education. When the prices of goods are down, those are things that the minister should be focusing on. I can tell you, Minister, 90% of the population don't believe in what you're saying.
Mr. Member from Alupange, you address it to me, not direct to the minister.
Because of the reality that they are facing every day. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to be careful on what we do and what we say in this honorable house. And, Mr. Speaker, let me also add to the fact about the job numbers. Fortunately, I went through the National Statistical Office that you went through yesterday and saw the numbers. In 2014, the unemployed was 2.6%. In 2016, the rate of unemployment was 2.5%. 2018, it was 2.4%. In 2020, it went up to 2.7%. And 2022-23, they're expecting it to be at 2.8%. Those are the numbers that your departments are producing. I don't know which page that you are reading from about job losses and things. We are familiar with the unemployed people because if you got the real numbers from people like Nest Fund or Number One Super, they will tell you how many people are being put out of job. And the growth of jobs that you are talking today, nobody sees it. Nobody's feeling it. People have no income. And that's what they want you to take leadership about. And when you talk about creation of jobs in the manufacturing sector, yes, we know. You met with the Manufacturing Council and you posted a lovely picture. Of course, some of them are your relatives. Some of their businesses might be able to, of course, have some growth. But the rest of the industry is suffering. As far as we know, there are cuts all the time. We've seen the front pages of the newspapers, so I don't have to explain to this House and the Treasurer. But reality is that people are losing jobs everywhere. Only place there's steady in jobs is government because we are protecting it. So we should. And of course, Mr. Speaker, if the good Treasurer cared to look to the reports by, even independent report by National Research Institute, and they did a sample survey in Port Moresby, and they said that almost 68% of the young population from age 14 to, I think, 35 are out of jobs. These are grade 8, grade 10, grade 12 school leavers, some university dropouts, some skilled workforce that are not able to find jobs. And here you are telling the Parliament that jobs are available and people are getting jobs, but they are not seeing it. So, Mr. Speaker, I think, we need to be honest about what we are saying to our people. We need to be honest. It's not about political point scoring in here. Treasurer need to stop. You need to put your own mark on the economy in this country and let people judge you. Don't judge it that you are doing all these wonderful jobs yourself. Let the people judge you that you are doing the right thing. I think the only person who believes in you is your Prime Minister. But that's fine. We know that you two are working together in trying to rescue our economy. But let's do the right thing. Let's focus on a few things. Let's focus on cost of living. Let's try and get inflation under control. Let's try and promote more jobs by making sure that we have a conducive business environment. If you look through and you can name me, I may be wrong, Mr. Speaker, I may be wrong. But tell me, over the last 3 or 4 years, apart from Total, what was the last foreign direct investment announced in this country? I know there were some 100 billion and 40 billion projects announced somewhere in Morobe and Eastern Islands and a few other places. But those announcements have come to nothing. These are sort of investments that create jobs, Mr. Speaker. So stop talking and let's get some of these projects off the ground. Total off the ground, or Papua LNG off the ground, which you are doing, and we support that. That will create thousands of jobs for Papua New Guineans. Try and get WAFI off the ground. That has been on discussion table for the last 6, 7 years. Let's try and get, of course, Pasca and Penyang, and especially Pogra off the ground. Pogra, we have lost almost 3 billion kina, a year in revenue for the state. 3 billion kina in the last 3 years. That's the money that you are now borrowing from IMF. You don't have to go to IMF if you had kept Pogra going. But stop setting dates that we cannot afford to meet, giving people false expectations. Papua New Guineans, thousands, over 3,000 or 4,000, I think Papua New Guineans lost their jobs there. Countless of SMEs, truckies, contractors, subcontractors, now the landowners who are not receiving any benefits. It's because we have not handled this transaction well. So let's get it, stop talking and let's get it off the ground, give it priority. And I think, you will find jobs in those sectors. Let's get agriculture moving, tourism moving, fisheries moving. And I think, our country can be back on track. But we are at a stage of very crucial stage, and I'm warning our parliament and, of course, our country. We have a very boom stage in our resource sector today. Just like we did, and I agree that during, of course, Chief Sir Michael Sumara's time, we enjoyed some boom. We had, in fact, surplus budgets and we had surplus money in the bank account, about 6 billion. But how we spend that is another story. But I want to say that today we are enjoying prices. We need to save for the future. Some of the bonuses that windfall that we are receiving, we have to save for the future. What you are doing today by borrowing from IMF is that very simple. IMF, the Treasurer and I will disagree on this forever, but let me say this. I did not say that IMF did not lend to other people. Of course, during COVID, IMF lent to close to 100 people. But IMF did only lend to 3 countries, and you are the 3rd one on budget support. That's called bailout. You can't rewrite things. During COVID, of course, IMF was obligated. IMF was obligated to support countries around the world. IMF's charter is very clear. They come in and intervene when countries have balance of payments issues and there's stress in the economy. That's when they intervene. That's their charter. And, Mr. Speaker, the Treasurer should inform this House and the country that we have been under what they call staff monitoring program for almost over a year. IMF has an office here in PNG already. They have staff monitoring your performance, Treasurer. I was up late last night reading the IMF's press release from Washington last night like you did. And let me I quote one of the references that they made. It's not because you went and did some good work there that they lend you the money. They are saying this, and I quote, building on the progress under staff monitoring programs in PNG. and they're urging the authorities, that's you, Treasurer, the need to accelerate structural reform programs. And I quote, you read the statement properly. That's what they are lending you the money. You are not telling us the conditions in which you are borrowing this money. They are asking about reforms in central bank, reforms in public sector, strengthen ICAC, and of course, reforms in the overall monetary fiscal policy. You have to inform the nation these reforms that are coming through. Not just flowery statements saying that everything will be all right. We've gone through structural reform programs with IMF before. We know the experience we've had. We are not the only ones, but Mr. Speaker, everywhere around the country. Mr. Speaker, one of the other reasons why our economy is not performing is because government departments are not receiving the funds that you have budgeted for, Treasurer, Mr. Speaker. Because for the first time in the history of our country, the day-to-day issuance of warrants have been controlled by the Treasurer and under the supervision of IMF. The staff monitoring performance, you are signing all the documents.
Prime Minister.
For Yellowbush inference that IMF is controlling the Treasurer for the issuance of warrant, that is completely false. IMF has no direct oversight on day-to-day running of the programs of government as per what we budgeted. That is an accession, that is an inference. Point of order doesn't allow for accession and inference. He needs to withdraw this. Treasurer is working in a weekly program as defined by the Budget Management Committee that he chairs over, and a composite of ministers are in that committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the intervention by the Prime Minister is noted. I did not say that IMF is issuing the warrants. The structural reform programs that they are putting in place include reforms at Treasury. I'm saying the Treasury is now totally in control of issuing the warrants to the department. That's what I stated, which is a fact. Treasury has never, I've been a treasurer before. We don't go daily signing warrants on each individual warrant for each individual payment. That's the job of the secretary and all the other officials. The treasurer is performing those duties of what the officials should be doing. And because of that, funds are not moving faster to the departments and they are not able to operate. That's the reality that we are facing today. But the reforms are serious. I urge him to table the documents on the floor in the next sitting so Papua New Guineans can see the conditions in which IMF is lending this money to us. So, Mr. Speaker, I know that, in conclusion, let me say this. I know that it's not going to be easy. And I want to commend some of the efforts that the government has done. That includes, since 2018-19, the revenue of our government revenue has gone up. But I commend two agencies of government, Customs and IRC. They have done an excellent job, and of course, our internal revenue has increased from 13 billion kina in 2019, now projected to be about 19.5 billion kina in 2020. While the revenue is increasing, Mr. Speaker, we are still borrowing big sums of money to fund our budget because our budget deficits are also increasing. That is because we are increasing our expenditure. This is a time when we need to control our expenditure, Mr. Speaker. Just because we've got surplus revenue does not necessarily mean that we continue to spend. Prices of commodities that go up will come down, will definitely come down. That will create serious problems for us. And Mr. Speaker, while the debt levels are going up, as Treasurer said, the ratios may be a bit different, but there's no argument that it is going up. and soon it will exceed 55% of GDP. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to rein in this. Creating new ministries is not going to help. It's just going to blow out your budget. Make the ministries that you have work, make them to work. These are kind of non-priority things that you need to delay. And when you have the funding, you can come in with a budget to support it. So, Mr. Speaker, all in all, let me say this. There are challenges in our economy. Our families are struggling. Our people are struggling. We in opposition want to support constructive things. But the Treasurer's statement certainly lacks that. Certainly lacks that. As I said, I've been around for a while. I've seen the Treasurer come to Parliament and leave. I'll be still here when he comes back. But I will keep on saying what is good for the people of this country, and our own people deserve a break. They deserve our Treasurer and our government to give them hope. Hope that everything will be okay. Everything tomorrow, they will have a meal on the table for their families. They will have an income when they get a job. That is what they want to hear. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. Thanks.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. And to conclude the leader's comments on the IMF and to keep the discussions balanced and to correct his very wrongful comments about the IMF. Number one, the IMF that is here in the country today, Mr. Speaker, has established office here on the invitation of our government. On the invitation of our government. And finally, Mr. Speaker, to conclude and to keep balance and to correct his very selective comments of the IMF report, the same report that he has tabled today also says, and I quote, "The medium-term outlook is positive. There are good prospects of new investments in the resource sector, which would boost growth, exports, and fiscal revenue collection." Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to correct him again on the...
Honourable Governor for Pacific.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I think, first of all, it's refreshing to see that we were constructive this afternoon, and I want to thank the former Prime Minister for his very reasonable contributions. I think we've passed the buck enough times between governments on the issue of jobs for our people. I remember in 2009 when we were discussing the new LNG project at the time, the issue of jobs came up, but nobody took any serious notice of it. When we were working on Vision 2050, the issue of jobs also came up. I can recall in those discussions that policymakers weren't very interested in it. We always assumed that our people would live in villages, grow their crops, do their little SMEs, and that's how they would survive. So we've kind of carried that legacy for the last 40-odd years. There's been very little attempt to shift our economy and make it into a modern economy. Mipla hangama papa na stuff with the majority of our people living in villages. Now, as each government pushed that out, and now I'm come stuck on the Mipla, it's never been resolved. When we were building PNG LNG, some 14,000 people from overseas came to work here. And then they left. Port Moresby experienced the boom. Today we still have landowners in those resource project areas complaining. All complaining at stop. So I want to come back to this point that it's important for us to be constructive. And I want to thank the former Prime Minister for being gracious in his remarks somewhat. There's another point I want to make. Ogaraman lose tinding osam this la government come inside na 6 months beyond COVID come up. And the entire world shut down for 2 years. So the loss of jobs during the period 2020 to 2022 is quite reasonable. Plenty company closed down here. Airlines stopped flying, shipping companies stopped moving. So it wasn't only us, it was the entire planet that lost jobs. So I think you may talk out, na talk straight, na look something causing this plus one. While many of us are still denying that COVID ever really happened. China only opened its trading facilities 2 months ago. The largest economy in the world only opened 2 months ago. There's a knock-on effect lo China am shut down here, am affecting whole world. You know me so. But the fact remains, we've got to figure out a way to do more. The 1.1 billion kina package that went to taxpayers, we have to be honest with that. The people who are paying taxes, who were having their taxes deducted fortnightly, they got some relief. But because the pool of taxpayers is so small, the effect of that tax cut was not felt across the economy. One family doesn't feel it. We've got what? 200,000-300,000 workers in the country in a population of 15 million, 17 million people. That's not enough workers to tax from. Namibla or leaders lo here ma senisin tinting blomibla. We get excited by SME. And we think that SME is the solution. But the problem is, there's all SME line here, all by Salim or product blow low side. Who are their clients? The clients are working class people. And if we have very few working class people, then it stands to reason that your fundamentals in your economy don't exist. We need to build that middle class, which we currently don't have. Every economy in the world has a substantial middle class. Our substantial group of people are living in the villages. We educate them. 70,000 of these village people, plus those in urban areas, they finish school every year. Now time all finish, no got work. Our education system trains people to be kind of workers, not really workers, but that's where we're pushing them to. So all of the other agencies of government need to facilitate that process where work back come up. And therein lies the failure. The former Prime Minister raised an important point. Our government revenues have increased substantially. That's all. Emino gona karem kaikai. Why emino karem kaikai? I think that's the question we should be asking. Is it because we're committing too much money to DSIP, PSIP, and all these other things? Is that the reason? Now, I know many of us will not be happy because you miss amas lo DSIP na. PSIP na, you come lo parliament na, you check in treasurer. When are we getting our DSIP? But is it having the intended result? All these projects that we are working on in our respective ministries, in our provinces, are they having the result that we think they should? Suppose no God, there's got to be a reprioritization of the budget. That is our key document. Whether you are in opposition or government, our key operational document is the annual budget. Now suppose you be approving one blood now inside Lahap, now this money come up. That money plus the funds we raised from our loyal taxpayers must go back towards providing services. Not just services. Now I think I want thinking you need los anisim now. Plenty all road now when I'm something you make him here. I'm all blow service delivery tassel. They are not economic roads. The bulk of the spending of government is on services. We are not spending on the economy. Now behind you become a debate can law economy. Who is going to be funding that economy? The treasurer in his last report indicated only 900 odd million kina out of a 24 billion kina budget was intended for the economy. Not even 1%. Therein, I think, lies the fundamental problem. You may build him all road. Connect PNG is a brilliant program. We are negotiating bilaterals with countries like Indonesia and China that you mean by Salim Samla something ego, what are we going to sell to them? You mean to okay, buy me 50 more cow lo here na golo. Indonesia. Well, who's producing the cow? What are we doing to help that person to produce the cow that we want to sell? Where's the palm oil? Are we taking the steps to produce the palm oil so that we can have the 1 million liters of palm oil that we can sell to China? No, Katia. We are not actively intervening, Mr. Speaker.
Governor, you got a point of order? What's the point of order, Member for Kokopo?
Acting Speaker. You know, guys, one plus something, but we like him by road law, economic road. I must withdraw him this last statement. That's the vital and important building and constructing the roads in Papua New Guinea. I must rouse him that's all na talk also. If we can talk na pra. Mi plus supply need him road, lo building economy, cacao, copra, everything. So I'm that's all. Acting Speaker.
Member for Kokopo, your point of order is in order. Governor, withdraw your.
Mr. Speaker, I think Emi misunderstand him talk me. So I'm all right. Biar you can talk aside. The debate is this. Jobs need to form a core part of the government agenda going forward. And I think that's the crux of my debate. So it's really good to see. I've been in Parliament, I'm number 6 year blooming now. I can honestly say that in the first 3 or 4 years, there was hardly any discussion on jobs on the floor. But I've seen in the last 2 years, plenty talk jobs come up now. And I think that's an important genesis that we are seeing in terms of the thinking of the House. Because the demand is coming from outside. When we were working on MTDP number 2, and we did the consultations, plenty papa mama only sanap na only talk. You play no got jobs inside law MTDP 2 blow plan. I am a mother, I am a father, my child is graduating, but you play no put him walk inside law MTDP 2 blow plan. But none of the policymakers took that into account at the time. Now I think we are working on MTDP 4, if I'm correct. I'm hoping that online Bloimi designing MTDP 4, yeah, inside law MTDP 4, there will be a significant shifting or prioritization of funds towards jobs in MTDP 4. Because that is the guiding document for government, or it ought to be, in terms of framing the budget. We have to be framing our budgets in relation to the medium-term development plans. That's actually in law. If you look at the Planning Act, that's like you lock him inside that stuff. And I think Prime Minister O'Neill, when he was Prime Minister, his government passed that law. And I'm not sure if we're even following it. In any case, who said online now, suppose you all policymakers planning, you play harim stop. I'd like to see when MTDP 4 is presented, that there is a significant component that talks about jobs and how we get those jobs. Beyond just roads and bridges and classrooms and drains and toilets. Jobs must form a part of that equation, a part of that discussion. So, coming back to IMF, I've always complained on this floor that you may not check and balance the system, the government, and that's true. And I'm happy that if an external entity like IMF can place some conditions on us to force us so we can do things like ICAC, so we can prosecute corruption, then why not? All got an agency, you got corruption inside. We need to fix it.
Governor, you got a point of order here, Prime Minister.
With respect, I just want to have a insertion into the ICAC debate. ICAC is a classical example of the 32 measures that this government initiated and IMF endorsed. There's a difference with IMF imposed and IMF endorsing. We initiated 32 measures, including setting up ICAC, based on the credibility of the reform we proposed. They endorsed. So get this correct. IMF never imposed. We proposed, we set up, and they endorsed what we proposed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Governor.
Thank you, Prime Minister. It sounds better when it's proposed. So, And I'm glad that we initiated it. And as you know, Mr. Prime Minister, I was one of your key supporters for the passage of that bill on this floor, as you know. After a whole bunch of members of parliament ran away within a day of us passing the bill. In any case, that's another story. We've got to improve on our record, particularly law agencies, deal one time issue block corruption. We've got to fix our procurement processes. We've got to look seriously at how we are contracting and how we are getting results, because ML CPs come up with this hub. So I just want to conclude by saying that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And the fact that we are criticizing less and becoming more constructive in what we are adding to the debate, I think is encouraging. But we've got to build that into something tangible. We can't just keep running to Treasury with our little requests for money. Project when those little projects aren't adding to things like jobs growth. And the issue of jobs growth must become something that we discuss as a matter of course on this floor. Me yet, to be honest, plenty time you missing on lea totok lo road bridge na classroom misa pilim tired na misa gorasa. We've been having that discussion for more than 40 years. We need to shift our discussion towards jobs of empowerment of our people, not just man or Mary one time. So we start to engage all our people into the economy. So that production blongol, when something only come up in hard work blongol, it's actually adding to our economy. We don't just wait for the resource projects, which are important by the way, but with these resource projects, EMSA affecting legally line tasol, na EMSA affecting government tasol. Emi no sa touch him life lo olga man merilo. Olnar lahapya. So we've got to expand our thinking as a leadership group, and then we've got to start to force our agencies to go down this path. Because until our young people are able to come out of school and have access to equal opportunities, the opportunities need to be equal, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their gender. There must be opportunities that they can walk into or they can aspire to. Because those are the opportunities that we had in our generation. When we were finishing school, you were walking into jobs. These days, our young people aren't doing that. And so we've got to lift our discussions, lift our thinking to a point where we are focusing on those things. Now, me agree also. Plan the unnecessary something you may like walking. We need to stop that and we need to focus on what's important for the people. And what's important for them is jobs and opportunities. And that's going to be a key feature in every single economic debate going forward. Because without jobs, without opportunities for our people, we can send them to school, they can graduate with a piece of paper. If they can't get a job, then that entire 10, 14-year investment has been wasted. And that's no good for the parents, it's no good for the community, it's no good for the government, and it's certainly no good for the country. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Governor from Morobe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. O Halvin Speaker. Midok thank you, lo yesalomilom tok tok. Namon something la tok thank you, treasurer. Long give him report, long status for money, lo this country. And second, now I give him promise. Now I give him look sabe, or some Jimino country no bagra polgata. Country run good long, walk long economic. You give him this little picture, come to this little parliament. Number two, you give him talk. Long, this little country. I mean, short low walk. He got plenty walk his stop. Now all money finish in school or he finish in school, but all he can make him one and walk inside the company or along other section. All he can walk, all by walk, all walk is stop. There's a thing you give him. Now country no can worry too much. And this little talk you make him. Through the presentation for you. Now former Prime Minister, we'll talk thank you to you. You economist man, you former Prime Minister man. You run in Prime Minister long for time league. Now you can serve long heavy long. Country will face him. Long side long employment. Now side blow money. Heavy blow money. Now me, I must let you long you rebut him good. Me no economics man na me no teacher school long economics no one me no school. Also no me no understand him. Meeting in plenty members of parliament too, but I got same heavy one time me also me face him. Also no me no na clear good. So suppose you can talk through, even ta solve by saw same talk through. Suppose you can gaman, even two by saw also you gaman. Now, suppose you straight him straight, you opposition you talk straight, even two by Sawe or same, you talk straight. Suppose you get man, even two by Sawe or same, you get man. So thank you long. You don't want to make this talk, want to governor civic, you make him talk, me, I'm a talk, you play. You play, make him. Contributing, come, me play, some me play, no all points, me play Sawe. That's Mr. Treasurer. Me talk fishing because me like him all more people are him by me talk fishing. Me man blow stop long block. You plus I start way me no clear, but me say city club long block. Long settlement, me say stop. All people is giving me power, or send me must stop one time all na die inside long all na die long hand long all na since block place na planning me. Mr. Speaker. Now, me can talk him you, no one is something say stable block, no side blow employment. Case him walk. Now, no place too, long villages. Mr. Albin Speaker, me got beginning blow me, triple one time finish the university. One play finish long law, another play finish long architect, another play finish long agricultural science. Me raising this blow beginning long block. Me no raise him long out long white man. Me raise him all on block. Or find him hard long kids him walk. Or find him hard long kids him walk. Or stop one time on block. Marriage na stop on block. Or find him hard. Now you know meet us so. Plenty man. Plenty old Kamla 9 play district long. Morobe. A 10 play district. Beginning long go school. Long university. Long teachers college. Now other college. Government provide him. Or company provide him. Or church provide him inside long country play you me. All school. That's all you know how walk. All go back on block and stop. All go stable settlement. All stable village. All clever man and clever Mary. That is why. Some man you know go school. Some of beginning go school. Now all new level finding work. All this but some man will help him all. Long making trouble. Long showing frustration. Long all. Long this country long. You know, ending him. Issue long employment. All make him here, Mr. Alvin Speaker. All walk him here. Me man block me come to talk here. So if you like prove him, come block me you look him. Suppose you like prove him. And me big play heavy on this floor. Morobe province, me to talk Morobe province, so maybe country is down good now you. Give me this report. Maybe find him this play heavy now stop. School, you know, go na catching fish. School, you know, go na. Find him habush inside on travel bush na suti muruki kamna. Pegen is established before. School, Mr. Alvin Speaker. Long work long factory. Work long store. Work long industry, big plan name. Now, Papua New Guinea, Mr. Alvin Speaker. And my country belong family. Emi country belong clan. Emi country belong tribe. When something beginning walk na kissing money. Emi no money belong beginning. And money belong family. Me also me no come up member na missing down the stab lion. All brother you go walk, come give me 20 kina long. I've been lo fortnight time. Hey leader belong pla. Otoko kamali pimia. All sorrow lo me come give me, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Alvin Speaker. So money blow shut man walk and money blow clan, na tribe, na family, na political supporters. Mr. Speaker, suppose you know sour. Now suppose all man no pine and walk. All sit down nothing. Where are they going to get that money to supporting the family life? Now me place I establish place in a block. Mr. Speaker, also Mr. Alvin Speaker, and we heavy trouble more be me gonna talk. That's so maybe long country sample you play and must stop na him you play it. That's so that is then the big problem, Mr. Alvin Speaker. You will not look here man a talk. You will not come here man no ya. Hi. And big play big play. Hi, lo 1994, Mr. Speaker. 1994. Time government blue Julius Chen of Chris Ibeta only float him this lakina. Or float him this lakina. Or only deflate him reserves, Mr. Speaker. Now all float him kina. Now only thing was some long agriculture and other sector. By kissing money come na strong money by level of saying was some money blue you me and me stop long. 1 kina is equivalent to $1.30 American. What it is by you stop this the same kind of job me by stop. That's what the opposite them come up through. Opposite them come up through. Can I believe you going to pick him up? There you go. No. You please allow him to talk to me, Dr. Rolia. Minister of me, brother, Blumilo, can't have him challenging me on point of order. But me been talking some sorry, brother. That's so true on me to talk. Money, strong money, Mr. Speaker. Strong money, let me go down. Strong money go down. Companies shut down. All companies shut down. Because price with something going down on catching strong money. On this country. Price with something going up. Because strong money when go down, you mean by doubling 3 times, 4 times. That is why no foreign currency in the country. Foreign currency, come inside here. Huh? So they are all companies shut down there, and it may affect unemployment. It may affect employment. More company, more employment. Common sense. No more planning company by creating employment. Now we're beginning of train, only local on grade 10, you go to university long by Mr. Speaker, Alvin Speaker. All level that train long by go to Pani Mabus Lobus and Stimuruk na Kam na Katim na Keke, Apple before ya. To now me place I less look Keke Babus Lobusia. We feel like him Lotin piece long stua. Rice lo stua ya. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Also the Miller Tokosem. This kina devaluation and me creating plan this wave belong him. Now plan the heavy belong wave belong him. Today now me plus sapphire. Me plus sapphire stop ya. Reservoir. Papua New Guinea reservoir. Mr. Treasurer by you talking to me. Reserve belong Papua New Guinea long overseas. I must put $1 billion in stabware and stabware. Mr. Speaker. Because this kind money stop. Money bring me by stop long. $1 equals to 1 kina equals long $1.30 so maybe going down long $2 American. Once there's something is stop, you know have plenty problem inside of the country, Mr. Speaker. You know have plenty of all price look goods by stop tumbler. All price look good by stop tumbler. All man by get him good pay. All by get him pay and be more strong. All you gonna store triple trolley by pull up nothing Karim go out. Only na long, go look price. Kisim taso put him na you go. You know what's getting price? Because money belong all, and me planting and me strong plan. Money believe me. Today that's the thing. And that's all make him. That's why you need to go long. Walk him road, you're gonna 1.5. You're gonna 1 place you're gonna talk to. That's what this layer. You like buy machine to Tokyo, look on the hill walking slab road. You will find out, look, company will find out, look, see machine cancer, yeah. Because you don't have foreign currency, in a foreign currency, will stop, look, see machine overseas, like come in. You will not go buy no kina. Can you know about money no got strong here? Can't even go to Papua New Guinea. No, no, come on, buy 1% here. Mr. Speaker. That is why, Mr. Speaker, Alvin Speaker, ask me for the point of question, you know, what notice come to you, Mr. Treasurer. Me from more than big time. Hardly building road go inside, kona. Water supply by go inside. When I service by go inside. This is a 10 million kina, one member, now, 10 million long regional member, long money, amount of money, I mean, big flower. That's a strong long M. Not strong. Not strong, Mr. Speaker. Now you don't buy him something, Mr. Speaker, but you find him hard. That is the one that may affect him. Affect him, planning something stop now. You mean we're going to put him reserve? You mean we're going to build him reserve? This is a name, solvency, or one name solvency, we're going to talk here. You blow we're going to talk here. M2 here. That's all people in listen talk here. All like him, Exenia. Mr. Speaker. All I look him here. How much money you make him on gold? How much money you make him on petrol? Go build him reserve. Build him reserve now. You must come to 10 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion. You may hold him staff now. Strong money, believe me, but stop on that. Stop strong. Mr. Alvin Speaker. That money is stuff strong. Price or something, all up or something, but you go down. You mean by smiling and stuff here, yeah? You mean by smiling and stuff here? All my believe me, all the by go walk because plenty company by created. Plenty job by created. All my go walk here. All my not being problem come. You mean by buying all the school fee, yeah? Why me buy school fee? All my by go school, yeah? No one travel in the far because me pay got plenty money. Plenty of people law in order, yeah? Police say by me give him big money to police, yeah? Police by get it, you want more money, you get the police by you soup Logania. Alvin Speaker. Money by talk. Strong money by talk. You know, money is also by talk. You go to budget, me go to look. No one thing on grassroots man, no look. Budget bring me before 2 billion, you go down 3 billion, 5 billion, you go 10 billion, you go on whatever. Now you start 24 billion, you go to talk. You may talk, you mix a mass or some big amount. That's all. Strong inside. I mean, kind of some cocoa, yeah, some cocoa, yeah. And you stop, you look him, cocoa, and you think him was this is cocoa and good cocoa. That's all. Waran and Balabi stab inside, yeah. I mean, you know, how time you cooking, that's all, but you looking was oh, Wara cocoa, yeah. I meeting good plan, and cooking, that's all, and Wara cocoa, yeah. Aye, money believe me, also, yeah. Mr. Speaker, money believe me, also, yeah. You know, so 24 billion? Okay, 24 billion, strong blongen by Camlo, 24 billion. Strong blongen money. Also, the government, ask me, we're going to talk on refining blonge gold. Me, we're going to talk, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Alvin Speaker. Me, we're going to talk on refining blonge gold. Me, not talk nothing. What problem you got gold in stuff, me talk? Or what man can't say on colonial time? He ain't very come inside. What people come inside? That's what Billy Brumblo say more gold and stuff inside yet. More gold. Skin Brumblo Pilim say more gold and stuff inside. Now you go behind him road, now you go. Time all the gold you got to go now. Suppose you don't believe reserve, you don't believe strong blow money. You by float nothing on some paper, you win by believing you go everywhere in this, everywhere by go, yeah. Innocent stone by Trump, you go up and I come down there. Win blue, you're going to look at that. It is time, Mr. Speaker, Alvin Speaker, we must build our wealth. Prime Minister, you talk to me, Harim. Me man was 3 block or send me brother leave, but me to talk now. Huh? You mean to him? You mean by deal want him old man outside to come help me long, set him up refinery. Now all by giving me 50% or 70% now. Only by 20 or 30%, all by 50%, na yumi by 50%. Kain di lo same, yumi by same refinery ya. Desa kain tutu ukulong kama pa. Ay, samla mani sabo no kat. Refinery im cost blongan tu ipleno tokimi. Nung refinery cost blongan money yumi kat blongan na yumi ukulong totok outside man come inside. You get money. Refinery also man talking about refinery by costing 1 billion no put him up. 1 billion, I mean big money in this country. Put him, you may put him refinery where we purify the minerals. You go inside the one kind mineral, Mr. Alvin Speaker, gold you mean, gold bullion by stop. Gold bullion by stop. Time gold bullion is stop. I am strong for something and stop, yeah. You like sim loan or something, but you sim, yeah. But you do not need to sim because gold bullion him stop, yeah. Now money through him stop, yeah. Strong money stop, yeah. That's what we need in this country. You mean just talk, yeah. This country, sit down and have long gold. This country, sit down and have long gas. This country, sit down and have long oil. This country, stop and have long DY. This country, sit down and have long fish, yeah. Now if you come talk to me or send business resources, I mean stop, I mean I will build them money believe me strong plan. But you mean overseas country don't come like something and go out. Now you mean by stop that's all on same kind of stuff now. All by talk, look him, or we're going to describe him all on this read stuff. So true player, and was in this cocoa, yeah. Cocoa inside, yeah, bagarab stop on eating good for cocoa. Time you cook him, by looking was in water soup by stop cocoa. Mr. Speaker. It is time we build the money so that we don't go and borrow, Mr. Speaker. You got money, you go borrow or something. Huh? Man, you got pig, you sleep long house, please you stop. But you go find him pig. Man, yam sleep long house yam stop. But you go find him yam. You struggle man, you must you get a man or one guy no good man or so. Well, play you make him now. You one blind man, but you send up the place, yeah. Why should this country by now come out on this kind of level? Come out on the mark. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister, me like him statement for you. That's all, me like him you mean serious. Serious will build him world. Long this country, now don't see him long overseas. Once you make him display, we don't, as I said, me to talk now, yeah, you may not need him, we may not need him, you may not need him alone. Me going to say if never going to go alone to Australia, development partners. This is a name millions for Harim for country. Because development partners make him become weak and they kill our potential in the head by convincing the skin and body to work hard. We must have Mr. Alvin Speaker. Me like him, you must build him weight so then by answer him over that. Prices of good and by answer him, we only go on up here. Now look kaboom. 10 piece by you buy him, 10 kina long, 1 but 10 piece, big plus 10 piece, 10 kina. Long lay by you buy him long, 5 kina, that's we go carbon 10 kina. Grind by you buy him 12 kina, 1 plus 10 piece. Huh? You think Pilai? Mr. Alvin Speaker. Now go there, I think by go there, please, Mr. Alvin Speaker, me will fly helicopter, you start tumbling, me flow on the stop, yeah? We all look, yeah? Routine go come up, have your man will look at the same time, stop, yeah? Me sorry no you stop. Me got plenty heavy 2000. Me will sorry no you now people play.